Today on MVA Mobile, we're going to be replacing a thermostat, which is located right here under the water neck. The first thing I'm going to do is take the negative battery cable loose. Okay, I've taken the negative battery cable loose. It was a 5/16 wrench I used on that. The next step would be to take the air cleaner off here. We loosen this nut here, and this will lift off, and we'll detach this hose from the passenger side fender, and we'll set that aside for the time. Taking the air cleaner off, there are two hoses on the other side of the air cleaner that you also have to disconnect, so you want to take those off before you try to pull it off also. The next step, we're going to have to take the belt off. To do this, we're going to put a socket and a ratchet here, or a long extension bar, something that will reach out here so you can pry up on the tensioner to loosen the belt off of here. We have to do that because right here on the water neck there's a bracket that goes from here to the back of this tensioner bolt. We're going to have to loosen that, and we can't do that with the belt on there. So, okay, to remove the belt, we're going to take our 5/8 socket and put it on the tensioner like so, and we'll just pull up on it and pull the belt out from under and let it rest back down like so. You don't have to take the belt completely off because we just need to loosen this, so you can leave the belt around the rest of the pulley so you don't lose your belt configuration. But if you do, there's a diagram on the fan shroud that you can go by to put it back on there with. Okay, the next step that we're going to need to do, we're going to need to drain some of the fluid out to relieve the fluid from this hose here and the top of the motor, so we can take the water neck off at the end of this hose on the block there. So we'll need to come down here on the driver's side, and there is a plug right there that we'll need to loosen and put our drain pan under and drain some of the fluid out so that that hose and water neck will be empty so we don't spill fluid everywhere. Okay, to loosen the bolt and the tensioner here, I'm going to use a socket, 18mm socket on this side with an extension bar. I'm going to use a ratchet with an 18mm deep well on this side. We'll just turn this counterclockwise and loosen that bolt, and that will allow us to loosen that bracket on the back side there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is loosen the bolt here, the nut here on this bolt on the other side of the bracket, and see if we can pick that up and move that to the side with this loose without having to take this tensioner completely off here. Alright, I had to go ahead and take the bolt completely out of the tensioner, so I'll remove that, set that to the side. There's another bracket here. It's connected down here. I had to loosen it also. This should allow me to remove the bracket from here, like so. Alright, the next step, we're going to need to move this battery cable out of the way. Just pull it up a little bit, work around it. The next thing, we're going to need to take these two bolts loose here. Actually, the next step, we need to take this hose off. I'm going to try to take it off, but it may be mended to the water neck from the heat over the years. So we're going to loosen it and see if it'll come free. I've taken the clamp off, and it's pretty free. So we're going to go ahead and pull it off, and I'll push it down here out of the way for now. The next step, we need to take these two nuts off here. That'll allow us to take the water neck off here. And the thermostat is located underneath the water neck down in there. Okay, so I've got the bolts out of the thermostat. Now we're going to try to remove it. Came off pretty easy, actually. You need to try to make sure that you can see the way the thermostat is in the truck and put the old one back in the same way. just by looking at the one that's in there. It goes in just like this with the long part to the bottom. So we're going to take the old one out and we're going to check around on this metal here and make sure there's no old gasket residue, because we're going to have to clean that off so it'll seal good when we put the new one on. And also, if you can see this, when I took this bolt out, the threads are full of corrosion. So we're going to have to clean that out and try to clean the corrosion out of the threads and the hole in the block that bolt goes into. So let's try to take this thermostat out. It just pulls out like that. You can see it's full of corrosion. A bunch of gunk in there. Here's the old one and here's the new one. You can tell that they're a lot different. So we're going to clean that metal and we're going to clean that hole out. Okay, the next step we're going to do, we've taken the water neck off and we've got all the old gasket residue off of here. I used a flathead screwdriver and a wire brush. I did the same down on the block. I cleaned the threads in the bolt and I cleaned these holes inside here. This is the gasket that goes on there. It's got one side's adhesive and the other side is just the gasket part. So we're going to peel that adhesive off and stick it on to the water neck like so. Okay, the next step we're going to do, we're going to replace the thermostat, and there's a little groove around the block here that this fits in. So when you put it in here, you want to make sure you get it in that groove around there. Okay, and it doesn't really matter which way this thing's turned, because it'll work either way. Just make sure you have the right side up. Alright, the next step is to replace the water neck. You want to make sure you get it back on there the same way it came off also. And the way I could tell, this one has got a little notch here. Also, it's slanted to one side. I can remember the notch was to the back. So set that on there like that. Get your holes lined up as close as you can get them. And then replace your bolts. Like so. We'll tighten these down. Okay, I've got that tightened down. The next step, when we took this off, this ground wire was on the bolt on this side here. So we need to put that back on and replace the nut that was holding it. Okay. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we have to put this hose back on there, but I'm going to move it out of the way for now so I can show you the brackets that I took off earlier. There's two brackets. There's this bracket here that we left on, and then there's this bracket here that goes on the bolt here. It goes underneath the cable there, and it goes behind that other bracket there. So we need to put the nut on here, make sure that stays on. It don't come off in the process of putting the others on. And then I'm going to get the tensioner. We have to bolt the tensioner back here with this bolt that goes through here. It goes through the tensioner, through this bracket, and through both of these brackets. We've replaced the bolt in the tensioner and tightened it up. I've replaced the belt And you want to make sure you get it back on the pulleys the correct way, so you can refer to the diagram on the fan shroud to make sure that's correct. The next thing we're going to do, we need to tighten this nut on this side of the bracket, and then we'll put this hose back on. This nut on this end of this bracket, and I tightened the nut on the other end of this bracket that's below the alternator here. You can't really see it from this angle. I've got all that tight. The next thing we need to do is put the upper radiator hose back on, like so. Slide the clamp back down. Now the next thing we need to do, we need to put this drain plug back in the bottom of the radiator on the driver's side. The next step we're going to do, we're going to replace the air filter, the air intake here. So we need to make sure we snap that back in the fender, and we want to make sure we get the hose underneath on, as well as the one on the back side here. And we'll center that on there. Place the top. Make sure you have the threaded stud sticking out of the top there. Tighten this down. Okay. That is complete. The next thing, the only thing we have left to do, we're going to reconnect the negative battery cable with the 5/16 wrench. We're going to have to refill the truck with coolant, so we can either go to the auto parts store and buy pure coolant and mix it ourselves with water, or we can buy the 50-50 mixture that's already mixed for us and replace that, and pick up a little device that you can check your coolant with. It'll show you the temperature that you're protected down to, so you don't freeze your block and pop your freeze plugs out or crack your block. I hope this helped someone that needs to do this procedure, replacing the thermostat. Thank you for watching, and God bless.